This story is from the very first book of the Ifa literary corpus called Èjì Ogbe. This story gives you a clear-cut idea of why Ifa is a GPS to life. It's a guide to life. And this story is none other than the one of how Ejiogbe became the Oba or monarch of all the other Odus. There are 256 Odus in the Ifa literary corpus. And this is a story of how Ejiogbe, the youngest of all the Odu, became the most senior. This story tells us about the value of honesty, the value of sincerity, the value of simplicity, and above all, the value of humility. Ejiogbe became the monarch of all the Odu by the fact that his Ori was more congenial to that of being a monarch. This poem goes like this. Ó ní ọ̀kánjúà ní ó jẹ́ kí wọ́n mọ̀ pín. Ẹni apá bá tọ́ sí ni wọ́n máa ń fún nítan. Ẹni gẹ̀gẹ̀sì àyà bá tọ́ sí wọ́n máa ń fún kòbó okun. Adífá fún odù mẹ́rìndínlógún. Níjọ́ tí wọ́n ń relé Olódùmarè tí wọ́n láwọn ò lólórí wọ́n fẹ́ jọba nú ara wọn. There was a time when the 16 main Odu were all brothers, of course. They associated together, they went out together to do things together. And when they went to divine, they divined oftentimes as a group, more or less in the way that a firm of physicians or lawyers will come together to form a practice. Ogbe Meji was the oldest of all the Odu. And just because of his age, every one of them followed Ogbe Meji about. But one day, they all decided that it was time for them to decide on which one of them was the Oba or monarch of all the Odu. And of course, no one proclaims himself or herself a leader. Anyone who self-asserts his or her own leadership will never really be a true leader. People proclaim you their leader. So they decided to go to Olodumare, the Yoruba high it, or high god, if you like. And they decided that they were going to ask Olodumare to proclaim one of these 16 Odu to be their monarch or Oba. So they all went to Olodumare's palace in the abode of the supernatural. When they got there, Olodumare granted them audience, and they explained why they have come to Olodumare. They said that, well, Olodumare, we the Odu of Ifa, we give people guidance in their life. We divined for leaders of cities, for them to become the Oba of their city. We divined for trees. They proclaimed the Iroko tree, the leader of all the trees. We divined for animals. They proclaimed the elephant to be the leader of all the elephants. We divined for birds and all other species on earth. It is high time for you to proclaim which one of us Odu is the monarch of all the Odus. Which one is our Oba? Olodumare looked at them and laughed. He said, why do you need anyone to proclaim one of you a leader? You work well together. They said, no, it makes sense. It's better for us. So Olodumare decided that, well, okay, come back in 16 days' time. When you come back, I'm going to tell you which one of you is the Oba of all the Odu. So they left. But before they left, Olodumare gave them a gift. He gave them one mammoth cow. This cow was huge. Nothing like anyone had ever seen before on earth. So when they got back to earth, they divided up the cow into 15, even though there were 16 of them. Ejiogbe was the youngest of all of them. the age difference between Èjì Ogbe and Ofun Meji was so phenomenal that Èjì Ogbe was almost like their errand boy. So they forgot about Èjì Ogbe when they were dividing up the gift. They divided it into 15 places. When they finished the division, Ofun Meji, the oldest of them, called Èjì Ogbe, said, Èjì Ogbe! Èjì Ogbe came running. Yes, sir, yes, sir. Said, well, yeah, take that home for me. Èjì Ogbe carried Ofun Meji's share, took it home. Ose Meji, all of the Odus, Èjì Ogbe was the one who was running around carrying up their share of the gift all the way home. When they got to about 3 portions left for him to take home, someone then realized that, this young boy who has been helping us all day, we need to give him something, shouldn't we? Ofun Meji said, well, what can we give him now? We've already divided everything. Then someone suggested, why don't you give him the head? Do you want the head? Do you like to eat the head of cows? None of them wanted the head. So after Èjì Ogbe had taken everything home and came back, they told him, Èjì Ogbe, you've been a very nice boy today. Thank you so much for your help. You see that head? You can take it. That's for you. Èjì Ogbe was happy. Oh, my brother has remembered me. He was dancing with joy, and he went back home. But when he got back home, he wasn't too pleased with the way things went. So he called some Ifa priests and priestesses, and they divided. The Ifa priests and priestesses he called were none other than the Ọ̀kánjúà ni ò jẹ́ kí wọ́n mọ̀ pín. Ẹni apá bá tọ́ sí ni wọ́n máa ń fún nítán. Ẹni gẹ̀gẹ̀sì àyà bá tọ́ sí wọ́n máa ń fún kòmó òkun. Adífá fún odù mẹ́rìndínlógún tí wọ́n ń relé Olódùmarè tí wọ́n láwọn olórí wọn fẹ́ jọba nú ara wọn. This group of Ifa diviners, they had weird sounding philosophical names. Ọ̀kánjúà ni ò jẹ́ kí wọ́n mọ̀ pín, for example, means something like, it's because of their greed that they do not know the equitable way to divide things. They divined for Èjì Ogbe and told Èjì Ogbe that, well, your sacrifice is the head of a cow. Oh, Èjì Ogbe said, that's it. Well, here you are. They did the divination, and on the 16th day, they all went back to Olodumare's palace. When they got to Olodumare's palace, Olodumare said, oh yes, you 16 Odu, you are here again. You want to know who your monarch is? Yes, okay. Oh, I remembered. I remember that I gave you a gift the last time you were here. How did you divide the gift? Oh yeah, so we divided it up equally. Everyone took a share. Olodumare said, no, I want you to explain to me who took which part. And they described everything and said, well, and then Èjì Ogbe took the head. Olodumare said, okay, that's fine. Olodumare went back into his coronation room in the palace, told his emissaries and assistants to go and bring Èjì Ogbe. Of course, because Èjì Ogbe was so young, he always sat at the back. They didn't even realize that they had called Èjì Ogbe away from behind them. Ofun Meji was so sure that he was going to be the leader, the monarch, the Oba of all the Odu. So they took Èjì Ogbe into the coronation room, adorned him with beautifully flowing agbada, beads, and the crown. And then Olodumare came out and said, oh yes, you Odu, come. It's now time for you to go and say Kábíyèsí and greet your Oba. They were astonished. They expected the Oba of the Odu to be one of them. When they got into the room, Èjì Ogbe was perched on his throne, his beads covering all his face. And after a while, they realized that, this was Èjì Ogbe. Ofun Meji wasn't too happy. Olodumare said, no. Say Kábíyèsí, prostrate and say Kábíyèsí to your Oba. And they all said Kábíyèsí. That was how Èjì Ogbe became the monarch of all the Odu. Oníjíjí làjí o, làbọ́ bá wa o. jíjí lájí o la bọ́ba wa. Àjíbọ̀ wá bá lábẹ́jì ògbè. Jíjí lájí o la bọ́ba wa. Ó ní jíjí lájí o la bọ́ba wa o. Jíjí lájí o la bọ́ba wa. Àjíbọ̀ wá bá lábẹ́jì ògbè. Jíjí lájí o la bọ́ba wa. This poem gives you advice on two different sorts of things. One is that it warns that if you are in a position of leadership in whatever capacity, don't underestimate even someone you consider to be the most insignificant, because the most insignificant could later on come to be the most important. And secondly, it also advises us that in conducting our interpersonal relationship with humans, with other persons, humans, plants, animals, and any living entity, always be humble. Don't underestimate the significance of anyone. And above all, always carry out your tasks to the best of your abilities, with your convictions, and always conduct yourself on the basis of ìwà pẹ̀lẹ́, which means moral and good character. That was how Èjì Ogbe became the Oba of Ifa. Aboru, Aboye, Agbo, Ato, Asure.